Just turned it away, maybe.
Gotcha.
Is that your family complaining that you kicked them out of their house?
I don't know. They're upstairs. I can't hear them. I got headphones on.
They're revolting.
Yeah.
Hey, there's Isra.
Hey.
I'm here with Chris. Chris Bjors said hi.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Hi.
All right.
So, well, let's start off by saying this is In the Trenches. This is a previously monthly, now kind of bi-monthly podcast that we created to kind of give a perspective of people who are just breaking into the industry. So for those of you who are listening, we're not necessarily professional, like big name status right now, and we've just recently sort of started getting work in the industry.
That's Markella's end. That is Markella's end.
That's one of our guests.
Yeah, that's one of our guests.
What? why don't we start with who?
Oh, that's hilarious.
You guys are breaking up for me. I can't hear you. Oh my god. Hang on, you guys. I'll be back.
Where's the? All right. Done. It's over.
Okay. All right.
That's great.
So yeah, as Zach was saying, for this is kind of targeted towards kind of up and coming artists, students, people that are looking to get into the industry, people that have just started the industry, and some of the struggles and triumphs that come with this whole career choice. So for this episode, we decided to kind of take a look at some of our friends abroad, that is to say outside of the United States. And kind of talk with them, ask them a few questions about what it's like being an artist kind of around the world and some of the struggles and issues that come with that situation. So today we're here with a few people. I'm sitting to the left of...
My name is Chris Bjors. I'm a freelance illustrator. I come from Sweden. Next up is the dog.
Edgar, wait, get this. I've been thinking about this. I think it's good. Edgar Dog Gaw. Get it? Because Edgar Degas.
What are you saying?
Degas. Okay, never mind.
That was bad. Well, our friend over in Greece, as it were, can you say your name and your occupation?
I'm Markella, and I'm a freelance illustrator from Greece.
And what's your surname?
I'm not gonna. You can pronounce it, Dylan. You can try.
Chris had this. He got it. He did it good.
Stavropoulou.
That was good, right?
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 Yeah.
All right. And last but certainly not least, we have our buddy over in Spain.
Yeah, I'm Israel Carrion, currently working as a freelance concept artist and illustrator and working on some personal stuff, but at the same time kind of looking for another in-house position as a concept artist, because I was working as that last year, and yeah, I want to do that again. I like it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, guys. It's going to be fun. We're going to be with you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. So I figured we could probably start with some of your guys' backgrounds. We like to do this for most everyone that comes on, just to get an idea of where you guys came from and how you got into this whole art field. So I don't know. Can we kind of maybe keep the rotation going in that order? We start with Chris and then Markella and then Isra. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, that works with me.
All right. So yeah, Chris, interests growing up. What were you like as a kid? How'd you get into art? How'd this all start?
Uh, I was sort of a pastime. I was pretty bored as a kid, so I read a lot of comics and I played a lot of video games. And when I couldn't do either, like in class, I would just draw my own characters, like comic books or video game characters that I thought were cool. And I just kept doing that as a habit for a long time, pretty much.
Awesome. Awesome.
Cool.
Markella, what about you?
Well, I've been painting since I was a kid too, on and off. And both my uncles were painters, so they introduced me to painting since very little. So yeah, I've been painting, and then I met you, Dylan, when I was like a teenager. I met you online, and you introduced me to concept art and illustration that I didn't know this field existed before.
Oh,
So
wow.
I decided.
I didn't know that. I thought you were already like familiar with that stuff before.
No, I was just playing games, and I had a vague idea that, there is something.
Failings.
What do you say?
Chris is just being Chris.
Yeah, never mind. Moving on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore you.
Dylan is an enabler. That's what I think.
Yeah. Anyway, it was through your. It was through Dylan that I learned more about this field, because I saw that Dylan was drawing digitally. I didn't know that digital existed before that. So yeah.
Awesome. And what about you, Mr. Isra?
Well, I think I started drawing quite early as any other kid when I was like, hold on, because I'm gonna do something now. So yeah, I started as any other kid, and basically influenced by my brother because he used to draw as well just for fun. And I was doing that when in my childhood, like drawing characters from Disney or Dragon Ball or whatever, but just basically copying and so. But at some point, you start playing more games, reading more comics, you see all these interesting characters, and you're like, fine, I like to make my own. So kind of what Chris said, and yeah, I started drawing my characters and this and that, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And the thing is that because I didn't have anyone around with kind of similar interests or who could kind of motivate it or guide me, or I didn't even know how to use properly internet, I guess, to find how could I make a living out of that. I gave up and I went to college to study computer science. Yeah, one of my biggest mistakes in history. But anyway, fortunately, after 3 years without drawing at all, to the point that I thought that I forgot how to draw, I met this other guy, in the school where I was learning Japanese, and we were talking about our backgrounds, and this and that, and the guy suggested me to get back to drawing and try to make some video games. I was like, yeah, sounds cool, because I fucking hate my career, and I would love to get back to drawing, but I didn't find any purpose for it or something like that, So yeah, and that was the beginning of what was my job for 4 years, because I was working as indie developer, and I was just working on all the visuals of the games that we were working on. And yeah, at some point I still felt that I wasn't achieving the quality of my work that I wanted, because I was inspired by all these Imagine FX magazines and all those stuff. And yeah, I quit that as well, and it was when I was introduced heavily, like not lightly, till that time to the concept art and illustration world. And here I am now, a few years later.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, no, that's a really good segue, because that was kind of the next topic we wanted to touch on, was kind of your guys' background in education as it relates to artwork. So did you guys go to any kind of, I mean, Esther, you kind of explained, but Chris, Markella, did you guys go to any kind of art school, or are you guys self-taught? How did you guys kind of come up through your education with this whole art stuff?
I was actually going to go into programming and computer science, because, like Israel, I did not even know that concept art and illustration was a job when I was a teenager. It wasn't until I was see, I think it was 18 when I got an advert, actually, that said, join this game development school. That was like a vocational education for game development. And it was the first I had heard of this, and I was kind of interested. So I went there for 1 year, and I studied 3D graphics for movies, commercials, and games and stuff. So I learned a lot of 3D there. And it was all, everything was modeling and animation and rating and rendering and all those kind of things. It was there that I found out more about the 2D side of art, like concept art and illustration. And I thought, I'm more interested in painting, so I dropped out of the school I was going to, and I moved back home, and I started working really hard on just improving my painting skills. And from that day on, I was pretty much self-taught.
Cool.
Awesome, good deal. And Markella, you might need to unmute yourself.
Is Markella there?
Oh, okay. I was muted. So I didn't go to an art school, but I went to. My degree was computer video games design. That's how it was called. So we did a bit of programming, we did a bit of project management, level design, everything but art. We did basically, we did a bit of 3D too. And on our second and third year, we had to make a game. We got into teams and we had to make 2 games. And that helped because I started trying to concept, and I started watching Feng Zhu videos and getting more into illustration. But in terms of education, we didn't have an illustration course or an art design course, not at all. I learned everything that I know through friends and on my own.
Gotcha.
So, I didn't do anything art related.
Okay. All right. So during this whole time and your upbringing and your guys' education and as you started more into this world, how are your families? Because I know that's something that for a lot of artists that can be a difficult thing, where there's some families that are pretty supportive of your decision to pursue a career in the arts, and there's some families that might try and dissuade you from taking that path. How was it for you guys? How were your families? Yeah, Israel, why don't you go for it?
Well, yeah. Before that, I like to add something on the previous topic, because people might be wondering how I went from computer science to art.
Sure.
Like, how did I learn that? And it's basically a mix of short-term courses and self-taught. Because the thing is that after 5 years at college, one thing I had clear was that no matter if it was the subject that I was going to enjoy, I didn't want to be tied to a course or a school or anything for several years again. So I was just, grabbing these magazines, these books, watching these videos, attending these courses online or at a specific school for only 1 or 2 months. Just do some networking. So it was a bit of, a bit of here, a bit of there, and that's how I kind of, started pushing my skills and learning, studying, and all this stuff. And the thing is that about the family, well, in my situation, the thing is that my parents got divorced when I was 5. So when we talk about my parents, it's basically my mom. And the thing is that she doesn't know anything about this industry, but she's always been very supportive with me and kind of trusted me. So it was cool, because in my case, that was always something kind of weird for me, because, yeah, my mom knows nothing about this industry, but because she trusts me, it's like she supports me. And when I find someone who says, like, yeah, my parents wanted me to do this or to do that, it's like, man, like, I kind of consider myself lucky in that sense, because the only thing is that it's true that no matter how supportive she is, she always kind of tries to, keep me here in Spain, you know, because it's just kind of terrified every time that I have to travel overseas. But I guess she got used to it because I've traveled so much already, and tomorrow I'm taking a flight to London, and I'm gonna be within the next 4 months in 5 different countries. So it's something that she has to understand, you know. But yeah, I just consider myself lucky, and other than that, just talking about the other people surrounding me, family or friends. Well, it's kind of the same, like ignorance, you know, and you have to live with that. At least you don't. Well, more than from my family, because my family was supportive, I found friends that were like, man, like, you know, look for a real job, like, stop doing that because you're wasting your time and all these things that you get. And that's why, as I said, at some point I gave up. But, you know, it's all about developing tough skin, you know, not caring about what others say and just follow what you want. That's it.
Wow, so that's kind of interesting. So your friends at the time were the ones that were more trying to get you to change career paths or whatever, while your mom was more supportive of your choices.
Yeah, my mom was like, yeah, son, like if you think this is appropriate for you, I'm sure that you're kind of smart enough to, you know, reach a good. Because the only thing that my mom was telling me all the time, because my mom, for a living, she just cleans in a factory, you know. So she was always telling me like, son, you have to study, you know, you have to work hard and not find yourself in my situation, you know. So she saw me, you know, just studying or whatever, and she just kept supporting me. But yeah, my friends, not all of them, but some of them. Again, sometimes I don't know if it's jealousy, or sometimes I don't know if it's just ignorance, or I don't know what's going on, you know, on their heads. But yeah, you find that quite often, like people telling you, oh yeah, look for a real job, like stop wasting your time at home, or you know, go and get a job to pay the taxes or whatever, you know. And you have to, you try at some point. Yeah, for a while I was trying to make them understand. I think that they finally understood, but yeah, it was a long way to make them understand that while I was at home, you know, not going anywhere or something like that, I was, you know, working or studying, you know, because you say, oh yeah, I'm going to this school to study, and everyone understands. But you say, no, I'm studying at home, and they're like, really? Are you not playing video games? You know, so well. But again, I was very weak. I was very weak when I was a teenager, and that's why I was very easy to get influenced. But now it's like I'm the opposite. I have very clear what I want, and I don't care what others say.
Awesome, awesome.
Uh, supportive families, right? My family was not very supportive of my choices at the start, and they would try pretty much every single strategy to get me not to do art for a living, because in their minds, art was one of those things where you throw paint on a canvas and 1 in a million like manages to sell the artwork. And no matter how much I would like show them practical examples of art being used in movies and games, and like people making tons of money just doing, you know, game development, they would not understand, and they would not believe me. They thought I was making this shit up. But pretty much the second I started making money and taking care of myself, not through loans or through school or through other jobs, but mainly through art, they started realizing that, oh, okay, that's possible. And all of a sudden, it went from, you can never do this, you're going to kill yourself if you do this, to, oh, I'm so proud of you. So pretty much the second I started making enough money to take care of myself, they started supporting me. So now they're totally fine with what I do. I mean, maybe not totally fine. They probably would prefer I did something that paid more, but they are okay with it because they know I can take care of myself. So it's more of a, I had to convince them that this was real before they decided to support me. And my friends at the time didn't even really care. They just gave 0 fucks.
Were they like your friends? Were they at least interested?
No, they had no interest in art or anything like that. So, like, when you would tell them about art stuff, they would just be like, huh, all right. And that was it. So for the longest time, this was a very uphill battle because my family was against me, and I didn't have a lot of influence from anyone else. It was pretty much just, I know this exists. I have access to this web forum that I don't really know anyone, but back in the day it was conceptart.org. I didn't really know anyone. I would just post there and hope that someone would talk to me. So for probably the first 2.5 years, it was very much just uphill battle before I started making friends who did the same thing, and I started meeting more people who encouraged me rather than try to shut me down.
Now, and if I'm not mistaken, a lot of those were online, right? Like a lot of the friends, not necessarily like in person in Sweden.
Yeah, same
No,
here.
the friends that I knew from Sweden, like my friends that I knew in real life, they were the ones who really didn't care. Like, whatever, do whatever you want. As long as you don't kill yourself, you're fine. The friends that I made that were supportive were all online. Like, every single art friend that I've had has always been online because it wasn't really that big in Sweden at the time, and I couldn't really find any people with the same interest that I had in Sweden.
And when, just for timeline's sake, when would that have been when you were talking and reaching out to other artists on concept art? Because I know that forum kind of changed, or the focus of the forum, I guess, kind of shifted with the community over the years. So I would imagine this would have been in the earlier few years of conceptart.org.
Yeah, definitely. This was back, I think, 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
And it has changed dramatically since then. So.
But at the time, it was kind of the up-and-coming big community.
At the time, it was a very up-and-coming, and all of the big names that you know about now used to go there and post, like Jason Chan and Android Jones and Craig Mullins. Like, all of these really big guys that you don't really see anymore, they would all be a part of this community when it started.
Gotcha. So, and Markella?
My parents were have always been supportive of me, and at the start, my mom, well, they weren't that supportive when I told them that I wanted to leave and go to the UK to study. I wanted to leave Greece. There wasn't such an industry here, and my boyfriend at the time was in the UK too, so I had decided early on that I was gonna go. And they were skeptical about that. My mom wanted me to study something here and then go abroad if I wanted to. Or when I told her that I wanted to do something that has to do with painting, she told me to go to a fine art school here. But I'm glad I didn't. So yeah, when I left, when they saw that like I was serious about it, they were super supportive. And now they're even more supportive that I'm working. They get stressed. My mom gets more stressed than me. Like, she keeps asking me about my work, and she tries to understand. Like, she keeps checking like the website. Yeah, she's really cool about it. My dad doesn't know a lot about what I do. I've showed him, but he still thinks that traditional is a lot harder, and it's like real art. Traditional is way better than digital.
Now, Markella, I have a question. Prices for living, like living expenses in Greece, is a lot cheaper than, for example, the UK, right?
Well, right now, yes.
Yeah, so do you think that because it's cheaper living in Greece, they were more supportive of it because the money you make in freelance goes a lot further in Greece than it does, for example, in the UK?
Well, no. Actually, my mom was very scared that I decided to come here and stay for a while, because if something happens, like, she's like, you have nothing to do here, especially with that crisis that we have now.
Right.
Like, she doesn't want me to stay here. She wants me to go and do whatever I want, but like do something abroad because there's no future here.
With freelance, I mean, you can live pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, sure.
In Greece, then you can get a lot more for your money.
Yeah. It's just that, like, I don't I'm not really sure what I want to do long term yet, and my mom thinks that it's probably going to be better for me to leave somewhere else.
All right.
I would like to add one tiny thing I forgot to mention before during my turn. It's that related to these things of how some other people can influence what you do and all this stuff is that before my parents got divorced, my dad wanted to get me into music, and he wanted that not even because of his choice, but because he had a friend who was a music teacher. So there, it's just an example of how, different relationships or connections or something like that might get you into something that probably nobody asked you if you want or you don't. You know what I mean? That it wasn't even my dad, it was my dad's friend who, so it's, oh man, just, it'd be good if these people just ask and respect what you want to do. Okay.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Good deal. Well, I think Markella also brought up kind of our next topic here as far as work. Right now, you guys are all freelancing, correct?
Yes.
In some capacity or another, correct. So I guess as a freelancer, was that something that you guys started with, or were you first in a studio and then kind of switched to freelancing? How did that all start, and how did you guys first come about the first jobs that you got in the airport?
For me, I wanted to do freelance from the start. It was just something that was very common in concept.org, and I saw a lot of the big names doing it. So it was just I was easily influenced. I thought, hey, I want to freelance too because I can make my own hours, and I don't have to go to a workplace, and it's just a lot easier, especially if you're from a country that doesn't really have an industry in video games.
Sorry, Mark.
For example, in Sweden, we did have a few studios, but they weren't really that great. They weren't really big, and they didn't really do that much cool stuff that I wanted to be a part of. Like the biggest studio we had was Dice, and it's still our biggest studio, and they developed Battlefield, and that's not really what I'm into developing. I do love the game, but I don't like developing that type of game. And other than that, it was mainly just like phone companies, like they did phone apps and these kind of flashy games for Facebook type stuff, and I wasn't really interested in that. So for me, freelance was pretty much the only option because getting an in-house job in another country is a huge hassle.
Yeah, you mean like getting a job like out here, for instance, or
Yeah, for example, getting a job in America is just really difficult if you're not an American.
Right.
And I just didn't see any good studios in Europe that I was interested in. Most of them were just like outsourcing companies for American studios. So it was kind of like you get to work for the American studio, but you don't get the full package. It's just kind of like you're a side character deal, and I didn't want that, so I would rather freelance. Ezra, what about you?
Well, in my case, after I finished college, I teamed up with this friend that I mentioned before that I met in the school where I was learning Japanese, and we made this tiny, and by tiny I mean only two people, and at some point a third person, but that's all. That's all about it. This tiny kind of development group, and we were just for 4 years. Yeah, for 4 years, we were making our games from home, which you could consider like freelancing, but the model was basically we would make these games, like online games, and just put them on a website, and then you would get some sponsors there and would bid for your game, and the highest bid or whatever you wanted would be the winner, get the game, would be released, and that was kind of the model that we were following for quite a few years. But the thing is that I've been always inspired by all these kind of big games, and I always wanted to be part of these big console games, especially console because it's what I've been playing since I was a kid. So at some point, we decided to push the level of this group to a company, you know. And here came where we realized that we had different visions for a company. My friend wanted to keep it safe, you know, only a few people, the two of us, third, fourth person, but that's about it, and keep, you know, making small gains and kind of stay successful, but within our league. But I wanted to jump to the next league, you know, and that's why my vision was to bring more people, you know, split the different tasks. Like, all right, because that time I was doing user interfaces, I was doing animation, I was doing all the backgrounds, icons, the logos, all the visuals, you know, and I wanted to split that. Like, hey, let's bring an animator, you know, let's bring a graphic designer for all the logo parts, so I can focus on just designing, you know, which is what I enjoy the most, the concept art part. Um, but yeah, different visions. Obviously, at the end, what did we do? Just stop that thing, and it's when I started kind of focusing on studying, because for those 4 years I was kind of learning on my own, but not properly. So I wouldn't say that I was a good artist at all. And yeah, I for a while have no job, you know, tried a couple of freelance gigs, but I still had that kind of vision of my goal is company. And in the UK there were quite a few companies that I was interested in. And there you go, last year I was there working at Rare, and it was cool. The experience was cool, but still, you know, I don't know if it was that I was for so long at home, you know, with my staff and all this stuff, that I somehow felt that I kind of missed my place. So I decided to, because we were at a later stage of the project and I wasn't doing much concept. I decided to quit and get back home. So this year, yeah, I've been just here at home again, doing some freelance study, you know, personal stuff, this and that. But now I'm at the opposite, same way that last year. At the end of the year, I feel like I wanted to be home now. I feel like I want to be part again of these big studios, big projects, you know. And that's why recently, like a couple of months ago, I started applying for studios again. And at first, I tried with some studios in Europe, and nobody replied me, which was kind of depressing. But then I don't know. I've been through a lot this year, and and I was thinking, man, like I haven't been to Japan for a long time, you know. And I think I wanted to mention Japan because when I was a kid, it's what I was the sort of games that I was playing, you know, Japanese games and all this stuff. So I was like, man, like this is something that I would really, really, really want to do. Like it's true, there are a lot of companies in Europe that I love, but man, you know, I want to try it. I want to try if I can land a job over there. Yeah, I started applying, and I have an interview next month with a big company over there. Well, I hope it goes well. But no matter if that with that company it goes well or not, I'm gonna be in Japan from October to December for 3 months, because it's the most the longest that they allow me to be there with the tourist visa, and do anything I can, you know, meet artists, visit companies, apply, send my portfolio, anything I can to get another studio job. So yeah, you can see that I'm a little bit, you know, between freelance and studio. But now, if I really can get this job that I applied for and I have the interview and everything, I wouldn't mind staying there for long, you know, not just a year, and see how it goes.
Cool. Um, and then Markella, did you want to go next? I think you need to unmute yourself. So.
Yeah, I need to. I have like 1,000 tabs open, and I need to find the Hangouts every single time. Anyway, well, I started working my first real job that was kind of relevant to the industry was right after I graduated. No, actually before I graduated, when we had the grad show, I met some people. It was like a marketing studio, and they were just visiting our university, and they saw my crappy 3D work that I had done for that game that I mentioned before. and they were interested in giving me like an internship. So they gave me one, and I worked there for a month for free, and then I worked for another month paid, and then it didn't work out. And that was my first experience. It was like a marketing studio. They were doing a lot of augmented reality stuff, and I was doing Maya for them and some visuals, some like very graphic stuff that I wanted for storyboarding. And then later on that year, I did an internship again with I did my first illustrations for a studio that was making they're called Nomad Games, and they made a game called Talisman, and it's a digital version of like the Nomad Workshop Talisman game, and I think it's Nomad Workshop. Anyway, and after that, I met a person through them that gave me my first freelance work, and it was just a couple of cards for a Japanese studio. And the year after that, I got a job from our mutual friend, Ben. I don't know, like he hasn't been here, right? I mean, in the trenches.
Oh, Ben Scott?
Yeah.
No, Ben hasn't been on.
Anyway, yeah. I got a job from our American friend, and we got like they were looking for people for S2, the company I'm working for now, and they got us an artist, and they liked my work, and I've been working with them ever since. That's it. That's my life.
But that's freelance, right?
Yeah. Do I need to talk about future plans?
Would you like to? What's your plan?
Well, I was just discussing with you. I was thinking, like Israel is going to another country. I was thinking of staying here for a while in Greece, where I'm at now, but then go to study in Seattle at Future Poly in April this year for 3 months. That's what I was thinking, while freelancing at the same time. I just want to do some studies because I've never done it before. I've never studied in an environment like that, and I think it's going to be like a good experience. I want to meet some people out there too. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. And so I think we've kind of covered the choice of studios available to you guys over in Europe and kind of overseas, but is there any sort of kind of stigma between like maybe American companies being more desirable or are other studios?
Oh well, I don't know. In my case, the thing is that that's true. I completely forgot to mention what were the options in my country. Yeah, it was kind of the same. I don't know if it was Markella or Chris that mentioned that there are a lot of companies like I was gonna make my company, just tiny games, indie games, whatever. But big studios where we have Novarama that they're making some games for Sony, and we have Mercury Steam that they are making. They made the Castlevania games, but the thing is that there's another thing that it's very personal that I have the impression that I'm gonna get better experience overseas because I'm gonna meet more professionals, and because it's something that, for example, I think Chris might agree, or even Markella, that's the thing, you move to one of these places and it's so easy to keep in touch with other professionals.
Yeah, exactly. I wanna come there because I wanna be surrounded by people that do the same like I do. Right.
So
Right now, I don't have anybody here.
even my plan, for example, of jumping to the pool in Japan it's kind of like that. Like, man, there are so many companies there. It's gonna be just a checklist, like go there, go there, go there, come here. But here in Spain, don't have much to do. And the other thing that might sound, I don't know if I should mention this because anyway, never mind.
All right. Basically, just make a community. And all of this in America. So you have Hollywood and you have all the biggest names. Markella there. America has all the biggest names in game and video and movie and all that stuff. Even marketing and advertisement, all the bigger names are in America. So it is more desirable because you want to work for the big giants. You want to work on the big movies or the big games. Whereas in Europe, it's more like I said earlier, they're the offshoots. They're like the side studios that do like the assets, the extra assets, or they get outsourced to these studios in Europe.
Yeah, like assistant studios, they're not like the primary developer for whatever the project may be.
And it's also, there's not that much of a art and game development community here in Europe, where we do have it, but it's very like spread out all over the place. Whereas in America, you have pretty much all of California. It's just this art area, whereas in Europe, it's like we have this one city in this country, and we have this one tiny town over here. There's no sense of community. It's just like these stranded little islands everywhere. So that's another reason why America is more desirable, because we all want to be part of that.
The other thing that I was gonna mention before, and I regret, but now because Chris brought it to the conversation, I think it'd be good to mention is that in Europe, because it's so many different countries with so many different languages, sometimes, and I've talked about that with Chris, like people who don't even speak English, and that might be a barrier for some people, to not kind of connect with other communities. There are so many artists in different states, but everyone speaks the same language. But here's like, well, for example, this tiny group in Spain probably don't connect with this other group in Germany because they're not good enough at English. It's gonna be hard to connect. And I don't know, might be just guessing, but might be one of the reasons why there's not one European community, and it's more like little groups.
I see.
If that makes sense. I don't know.
Definitely. Having some wacky things going on with this hangout right now. People trying to join up. It's a little distracting, but
It's not distracting.
well, I think this all brings up kind of a central theme to any sort of profession or just being successful, which is contacts, like in networking, the influence of that and creation of your network. What can you guys say to that effect? I mean, obviously we're here talking in this hangout because we either met online or we met at Massive Bike. In the case of Israel,
No.
what can you guys say about that? I'll start with Chris.
Definitely language. I think you need to be able to speak English to a pretty high level. You should be pretty fluent in English, first of all, because, again, most of the companies are international and they require you to speak English. So definitely study your second language. Making contacts, Europe, it's pretty much just online because, like I said earlier, we don't really have big communities, and they don't really talk to each other because you have one in Spain and one in Germany. Neither of them speak English, so they can't even communicate. And then we have like a few bigger ones in England, and of course they speak English, but it's still very small compared to what you can find online or in America. So building contacts has been primarily online for me because I've not had the chance, the possibility to make in-person contacts that actually matter, that would actually help me further my goals, get work, or get better in art. But I would like to add also that going to conventions, I recently went to the Massive Black workshop in Los Angeles. I think we all met there, and that was a huge eye-opener for me that meeting people in person is even better. Like it's a completely different game, basically. And you have a lot more influence if you meet people in person. So if you have the money and time, I would definitely recommend that you go to workshops as opposed to online. Because online, there are thousands of us that are just, we're just random voices on the internet. And it's kind of like, why should I care about you? Here's another person who does the exact same thing, and you're both hardworking, It's kind of like, it's hard to make it's hard to make good friends online because there are so many of us. Whereas in person, you can kind of get your personality in the first 2 minutes of talking to someone, and you can connect much better. So if you do have the money and time, definitely go to conventions and workshops all over the world. I would suggest to meet with these professionals and also other students. Next.
Markella?
I'm sorry. I think networking is huge. Everything that has happened to me over the past year and a half is through networking. As Chris said, my networking is mostly online, but I was at Massive Black workshop, and I can confirm what he said too. I felt exactly the same. I think it was a great experience, and it's very motivating to meet people that do exactly the same as you do and are better than you. It makes you work a lot harder. And I don't think I would have been this way had I not met all these guys online, like Dylan and Zach and Chris and Israel and everybody else. They motivate me more.
There's a little thing I want to add into this too, to go to the dark side. Before I went to Los Angeles, I was actually considering just giving up the whole art thing because I did not feel like I had a sense of community or camaraderie in the art world, and I had all of this negative influence at the time. Just saying like, oh, you're not making enough money, you're never going to make enough money, why are you doing this? You should go into banking or whatever. And before I went, going to Los Angeles to this workshop was sort of my last-ditch attempt at this art thing. And when I went there, like I said, it was just mind-blowing. It changed everything, and ever since, I've just been even more motivated to keep doing what I'm doing because I met so many people there. I made so many new friends that are just great people.
Yeah, I can only agree with. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I don't even
Yeah,
know what that is.
I was gonna say that I can only agree because yeah, for me, and you can actually even find a couple of entries on my blog about that. One of the things that was kind of life changing for me was the first Massive Black workshop in 2011, and that was exactly the year that I stopped. In 2011, yeah. It was when I stopped working as an indie developer, and I think I stopped doing that business at around June, and for a few months I was like, yeah, I'm so motivated, I want to do concept art, I want to do illustration, but man, I feel so, I don't know, lost, And then I saw, it's funny because it was because back in the day in Facebook, it wasn't like nowadays that I have pretty much every artist in the industry there. It was like I only have a very few that I add from seeing them on the Imagine FX magazines. And I had this artist that at some point who at some point shared the Massive Black workshop, and I was like, hey, Massive Black, I seen these guys on the magazines, and man, I was like, yeah, I have to go. I feel like it's gonna be good to go. And the even funnier thing is that back in the day, I was even worse at English. Like seriously, I was there struggling a lot when talking to people, but I didn't care. I felt like it was the right place to be. And yeah, and I went there and I made lots of contacts, and it was the beginning of a lot of things. And last year, obviously, it wasn't the same in that sense as the beginning of something, but yeah, it was still great and probably even better because it's like seeing again people that you haven't seen in 2 years or that you've been talking only on the internet, or seeing people for the first time that you've been talking for so long. And now I'm so excited that tomorrow I'm going to London for these industry workshops, and in a few weeks I'm gonna be at the Trojan Horse, was a unicorn in Portugal, for kind of the same thing. And it's again the same feeling, like I'm gonna see these people that I've been talking to just on Skype and Facebook for a long time. But yeah, this sounds everything very, just about feelings, but most of you are probably interested about the professional side. And in my experience, like all the art jobs, like after working as indie developer, when I start this kind of new life, all the jobs I've got so far, it's been or well because of contacts, because someone told me that this company is looking for, or someone told me, or for the basic reason of putting my stuff out there online and someone contact me, rather than applying to places. Because so far, applying to places, I've been only half successful with this, and I haven't get hired yet, but at least on how things are moving forward with this Japanese company, because all the others were or well ignoring me, or well, sending me this message by default saying, "Hey, we're not looking for anyone," or well, a couple of companies were nice enough to kind of get back to me and tell me why they thought I was not appropriate for the position. But yeah, it's so important. Like, and I try to do that the same, because we always say try to give back to the community, try to give back. And now, because I feel so grateful, that some people kind of share these jobs with me, as as soon as I know about a position or something that someone might be interested, I just send it to them, and yeah, it's how it works. Obviously, portfolio is also important, but networking, 50%.
Yeah.
I think that having friends and that community is very important. It's one of the most important things if you do this job, because you spend so much time with your art, just trying to get better, and it's just like you lose so much. You lose on life. You lose on everything else. Anyway, I don't think. Well, speaking for myself, I haven't been very balanced for the past year. I was just like online all the time, and even if I didn't have these people, I would never have been able to make it. You get crazy just working 24/7. So it is very, very, very important to have somebody that you can talk about
Yeah, so
about that.
often you're just painting or studying or something, and you feel you want to talk to
Yeah.
someone, or you're gonna get mad.
Yeah, and I personally, I didn't want to talk to my real friends because they wouldn't understand what I'm going through.
Yeah, that's
They
the
would
thing that
try to help,
yeah,
but
I can't go saying, oh man, this piece is driving me nuts. Like the four characters in this illustration, this is madness, and they will be like, what are you talking about?
yeah, when you're devoting so much time on something, you have to have people doing the same thing around you. Otherwise, what's the point?
So if we're gonna, I just want to add a little bit of advice to whoever is listening to this. If you are from Europe and like networking is something you don't really understand yet, make friends with people on your own level first, because as you grow, they are going to grow, and one of you is going to get a job, and that person is going to be able to have some leverage and maybe get you a job, or vice versa. Maybe you get the job, and you can maybe bring in one of your friends, and that's usually how your network grows. So you start with the people that are around your same level. So you don't just go out and be like, "Hey, I want to be best friends with Craig Mullins," because like
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point, especially when you go to the workshops and you see this group of super professionals. They're like, man, I love to be part of that group. It's like, dude, like just make your own group, because in a few years from now, you're gonna be part of another big group. You know what I mean? So,
exactly, you're gonna basically cycle them out, and you're gonna be a new big group or whatever. And as you grow, eventually, usually, it seems that as you reach a certain level in this profession, you sort of blend all these groups. So, for example, I know people who know Dave Raposa, and Dave Raposa in return knows Wes Burt and Brad Rigney and a bunch of other big names. And I have friends everywhere who know these big giants. So it's just you start with the group that you have, and then as you get better, as you get work through that group, your group is going to expand and your network is going to expand.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you can't talk to like bigger people because
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course, you can reach out to these people. Just don't be like, oh, I'm not going to make friends with you because you're not a professional. I know a few people who would try to they would just like market themselves to Craig Mullins or something and be like, oh, why doesn't anyone like me, or why can't I make friends?
Yeah, the other thing.
They have like 2,000 people sending them spam emails. They want to be their best friends. Like, of course, it feels like if you were this industry giant, how would you feel if people tried to use you to get work?
And the other thing is that most of the time, I might be wrong in some cases, but most of the time you make friends not just because of the level or the name, but because you have things in common.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to super professional people that I love their work and they are super nice, but because we don't have many things in common, there's no way that we're gonna become friends. We're gonna be good buddies in the industry, but if you don't have many things in common, like what are you gonna talk about on a daily basis? So.
I think all I can say for me personally, I mean, Dylan and I went to school together and graduated around the same time, and we've been friends since. And what you said, Chris, was, to make friends who are about the same skill level as you, or maybe in about the same position in their career. And I think that that's been, I don't even I can say invaluable, but I don't think that even really begins to say how useful it's been to have people going through the same struggles and the same kind of we're sort of facing the same things at the same time. Like a bunch of us have been, we got clients together and we were talking about contracts, and we started talking about like companies and the level of detail in paintings. And I mean, you're talking about being in other countries and having a sort of shortage of artists to relate to, and so I can't imagine how much more important it must be for you guys if there really is such a shortage of artists in some of these countries over there, how important it is to find people who are at the same skill level, because they're literally your allies.
And at the same time, there's a little bit of kind of friendly competition, that you see this friend of you who you don't want to, go away like much further than you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and in that same vein, as far as the networking goes, like, you guys talk about befriending people that are at the same skill level and such. I just wanted to point out something that happened with Markella specifically, because it goes back to something I said in an earlier Trenches talk where we were talking about networking, and I was saying that I don't like this idea of like luck. When people talk about, they got jobs because they were lucky or whatever, like I think sort of, yeah, I think you sort of construct your own luck, and part of that is, by socializing and getting in touch with people that have similar interests. And I think that that's something that happened with Markella specifically, because Markella and I, you and I started talking. I can't remember if it was on Facebook or DeviantArt. I always forget which one.
Yeah, it was on Facebook. It's like 8 years ago.
Yeah, so it was through Facebook. It was a long time ago. And through us communicating, I think we started bringing you into the hangouts that we were having with a lot of our other freelance and art buddies, and that's how you started meeting guys like Jay and Ben. Well, I started talking with Jay the same way. I met him the same way I kind of met you, through DeviantArt. So it was an online interaction. But Jay was friends with and went to school with Ben. Well, Ben is the guy who's, he's the connection through me, through Jay, through Ben. You and Ben got hooked up, and that's how you're kind of in the position you're in now, doing the work that you're doing. So
Yep.
I don't know that it's always a direct connection with someone that will potentially lead to an opportunity, but it
But
all
you never
starts
know.
with, yeah, you never know, one, and two, it always starts with, a friendship. It's never, you're not social climbing, or you're not using someone to kind of leapfrog into a job. You guys know each other on a human level, and
Yeah.
then professionally, that's when you guys can expand.
And
But it's always a
actually,
personal connection first.
the funny thing is that when I started talking with you guys, I hadn't taken it that seriously. It was right after the hangouts that I just decided, okay, I'm doing this. And when Ben was looking for people, and he chatted to all of us, I didn't send anything. I didn't send him a portfolio because I saw you guys sending it, and I saw like a couple of other people. I'm like, I might send it, but I don't think they're gonna take me. And Ben was the one that told me, like, he messaged me personally, and he was like, why didn't you send your portfolio? And I was like, oh, I didn't know, like, that it was, you actually wanted it, and I sent it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sent it. He personally messaged me to send my portfolio. So it's if I hadn't had, like, if Ben wasn't my friend, I would be that stupid that I wouldn't have sent my portfolio at all. So it's really important to have people connected.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, he was the one. I was in the U.S. at that time, and I was planning to send it, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's super. Like, because very often you find yourself in that situation, like, oh man, I don't want to apply for this job, or I don't feel like confident, or I will do it later. And and yeah, that's the thing, that if someone from out of this community tells you, oh yeah, do it, it's like you don't take them kind of seriously. Because same way that I say that some of my friends weren't very supportive. Well, sometimes they were at some point, but you kind of don't take them serious because of that because it just feels like words. But if someone that you respect because you see your friend working hard and all this stuff, like tells you, no, it just apply, send your portfolio, or go there, or something like that. Like, because it was kind of the same for me with kind of this going to Japan thing. I know I really wanted to do it but I was kind of like, and I'm a very optimistic person, but I still was like, I don't know, because being afraid there, and with all the issues that you have to face, like language or experience and all this and that. And now I've got this bunch of guys that I talk to almost every day, and all of them were like, do it, Israel, for fuck's sake, do it. Like, if it's what you want to do it. You have already, as many people say, you already have the know. You have nothing to lose.
Totally. Well, I guess we could kind of start to get into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff. I mean, networking is nice and kind of flowery when you talk about making friends. But what sort of logistical issues do you guys face working as a freelancer? The things like, uh, time zone conflicts, the exchange rates, and like
Oh,
we
dude.
brought up language barriers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The collective sigh.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, you go. You start
you
first.
got started.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just need to think about it. I just need, because we're live, so I don't wanna.
Well, I don't know. I guess I can be quick here about the exchange rates. Basically, I remember 4 years working as indie developer, and all the sponsors were paying us in dollars. Yeah, you had months where you were getting paid more, and months where you were getting paid less. But in dollars obviously was the same, but because you live in a country with a different currency, and where during those 4 years the kind of life expenses were about the same. Well, there are some months that you struggle more than others. And yeah, I think that's kind of the main thing. Because other than that, time zone, I remember, yeah, when I was working as Cindy, that for a year, my friend was living in Japan, and because of his lifestyle, it was me who had to adjust. So I was sleeping every day from like 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., and that was my daily life. It's just kind of crazy. But yeah, don't know many other, and obviously the languages we already mentioned it. Like if you want to be active in the community and get a job in the West, like learn English. And in my case, for example, now that I want to go to Japan because I've been studying it for a long, long time. It's kind of fine, but well, I'm still kind of terrified because no matter how good, well I could speak it, still it's a world that I didn't explore yet.
The time zone thing used to bug me for a while because I didn't really know. When I started out, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't really know what to do, so I had to make everything up as I went. So at the start, I just kind of changed my sleep cycle to fit that of America. So I would wake up when they would wake up, and I would go to work when they would go to work. I mean, sure, that worked for a while, but that pretty much meant that I couldn't do anything in Sweden during the day. So I couldn't like have meetings during the day. I couldn't hang out with friends during the day. It was just like it was very lonesome for a while, and you pretty much had to go to the store at like 6 in the morning or right before they closed to do your grocery shopping and stuff. And I just like in hindsight, it's kind of like that was just so dumb because it really doesn't matter. The time of day, the time zone thing, it's not that big of a deal because you're always going to be awake at the same time sometime. So you're going to be able to send in your work or get a reply in time if you do it right. So to me, the time zone thing really hasn't mattered. Payment schedule is the same for everyone. Usually it's a net 30 or a net 90 where you do the work and then you get paid a month to 3 months later, and it doesn't really matter what country you live in. That's just standard. Exchange rate. Sweden, as a few of you may know, is very expensive. It's pretty similar to San Francisco, I'd say, in prices and living and taxes even. So we have pretty high taxes, we have high cost of living, and the American dollar isn't really worth much in Europe anymore, and it hasn't been for a very long time. And since my main clients are from America, I'll get a job and they'll pay me $1,000, and in Sweden that's worth like nothing. That's maybe a week, maybe, because almost half of that goes to taxes instantly, and then the $500 is, I mean, that's pretty much food for a month, I'd say. And that's not living like extravagantly. That's like just living pretty much. It's not that great. So living in Sweden and working with American clients, that was very tough for a very long time because you have to do so much work just to make like minimum wage in Sweden because of the high tax and high everything. And then of course language barriers. You have to learn English. Luckily, in Sweden we learn English from first grade, so that wasn't too big of a deal. Markella?
We're just gonna say about exchange rates. The good thing is that I'm in Greece and everything is dirty cheap now here because of the crisis. But euro is still higher than the dollar, and I get paid through PayPal, and PayPal has tax like VAT, and it also has when you transfer to your bank account. I transfer the money to my UK account, and I get PayPal gets a lot of money from my monthly pay just because it exchanges it automatically. So yeah, that's a thing. I lose a lot of money from that. What else?
Do your with I just want to jump in with the PayPal issue. Do your clients, do they tend to compensate for PayPal's tax, or are they still paying you what they contractually owe you and then losing on the PayPal exchange?
They've done it because I mentioned the issue with the VAT, and they did that once. I don't know about this month, but yeah, I need to get back on that actually. But they told me that they're gonna pay the VAT, so that's very nice. But the exchange rate, I don't want to, like, it's not their fault, it's PayPal. So
Personally,
they,
working with PayPal, I dislike it for that reason because they do have an exchange rate fee. So when you exchange currency, you get a dollar and then you change it in for whatever country you're in. Uh, and also when you transfer between countries. So my PayPal is tied to Sweden. So if I get money from America, there's a fee transferring between these two countries. And there's also a normal transfer fee, just regular transfer fee for sending money across PayPal regardless of the country. And it's not really that much. I haven't seen it be that much, but in my experience, I've never had a company agree or say that they would pay for any fees, any PayPal fees. Sometimes even in the contracts it says that I have to pay the fees. So I will get, $1,000 per contract, and then I will lose money on the transfer fees, which is why I do not like using PayPal. But on the other hand, it is much easier to use PayPal than it is to use a bank account. So direct bank transfer is usually cheaper, and if there is a fee, the company has to pay it, and you don't lose out. But again, PayPal is a lot quicker and easier. Sorry.
I haven't had a very good experience with PayPal. That's not really relevant to this conversation. I just feel like voicing my displeasure with PayPal.
Yeah, I do prefer bank transfer over PayPal. Was that it?
No, it sounds kind of like it's sort of funny because I'm living in America but working for a company in Europe, so it's kind of funny to be in a situation where um, I can relate because I'm working. I have to wake up at 6 a.m. To be on Skype at 7 a.m. So I wonder if it seems like things are becoming more globalized. Like you're working for, you're no longer working for a strictly American company or a strictly Swedish company or what have you. It seems like um, you might be working for a company anywhere in the world these days, and so I wonder if things will start to get maybe maybe better, or maybe things will be more available, or it won't matter so much where you are as things go on. But it doesn't, at the moment it seems like you've still got to make up for some of those things when you're located in another country or what have you.
yeah, I was gonna talk about the time zone. You remember my schedule, guys, right? Since I came back
You've
from
always
America, from the US. Yeah, I was in the UK. When I came back from America, I was living there for a month after Massive Black, and when I went back for the next 6 months, I think I was on American time zone. I was sleeping at 11 in the morning, and I was waking up at 8, I think, 8 in the evening, and then I was working and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was my schedule. I lost my appointment to doctors. I had to go to bank at times. I had no money. Yeah, I was losing everything. Like, I wasn't eating. We can post my picture of what I was eating that I posted on Facebook. Just peanut butter and Nutella, 24/7. Yeah, it's terrible. It feels way better to be on your country's
Well, but you can change your sleeping pattern, but
zone.
still eat healthy.
Yeah.
That'll be another podcast, and we'll have our resident nutritionalist.
Well, I eat a lot of chocolate too, so I have no excuse.
You all have diabetes. That would be
Well, it just when you don't sleep well, when you sleep like stupid times, you're not in the mood to cook. You're not in the mood to do anything. You just have to work. So like, I wasn't doing anything else. I
Well,
wasn't doing the cook.
here comes another little matter that it's a. I know some people who, for example, prefer to, as a freelance, to save some time, prefer to order food. So you have to pay more money to order food, but you have the time. And for example, in my case, I usually enjoy cooking because I take cooking as a break. You know, so for example, I'm on the computer for I don't know, 5 hours, 6 hours, I don't know, and then it's cooking time, and for me, it's like the break that I need to disconnect from the computer. You know, so yeah, it's everyone is different, obviously, just the way you adjust or deal with it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I enjoy cooking.
I hate cooking for myself.
We finally reached the point.
Well, if all you eat is pasta and peanut butter, I would hate eating that all the time as well.
It's just because I hate cooking. It's not like I can't eat any other food.
Just kidding.
All right.
Well,
So, oh, go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, I don't think any of you guys have taken positions, um, overseas, like in-house positions, but
Well, I did, but yeah, but it was within Europe, from
it was
Spain to the
within Europe.
UK. To the
yes,
UK.
overseas though. But the way it works in Europe is that if you're a European citizen, basically you're part of Europe, you can live and work anywhere else in Europe.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. The only things that I had to get ready when I moved to the UK was obviously you have to go to an interview for to get the national insurance number, and then you know, open bank account, get a phone number, and you're set.
I see. Because one thing we wanted to see to touch on was you know, issues with maybe visas, or are you just considered a contractor, or are you an employee, and how does that affect your visa and moving expenses? And I don't know if you guys maybe have friends who've done that, or if you know a little bit of this, um, it would be good information for the podcast.
Well, if I get the job in Japan, we can make the
Do
second
follow up
edition of this, yeah, of this
for
podcast.
sure.
But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I know quite a few people who, yeah, we're trying to get the visa to work in a country, and then for some reason, yeah, they say that for this or for that, yeah, they were not gonna uh, deliver the visa. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a very terrifying thing. Actually, one of the things that in my case, I thought that when I tried to approach this Japanese company, I thought they were gonna ignore me, and for the basic reason that I know that from when I tried to study there for a year, I know that it's a pain in the ass for a company. So I thought they were gonna ignore me just because of that, because you know you can get another artist local and you know skip this. All you know complex procedure of getting the visa for this foreigner dude. Um, yeah, it'd be good for them, but you know I guess that's why I'm kind of motivated because actually once they show you some interest on trying to arrange the visa for you, it's like man that means something.
Definitely.
And is that the as far as the visas are concerned, is that something that in your guys' research or experience, is that a pretty difficult thing to get moving? Is that something? It
Yes.
seems like that as someone living in the States, it seems like that is the key or the gateway into finding work, uh, at least stateside. And so I'm just wondering what kind of research in your guys' understanding,
Well,
how difficult is it to obtain a visa, maintain one, in order to find work outside of Europe, I suppose.
there's one thing that, as much as I say that I didn't like my what I studied at college, it's true that now, to looking for jobs overseas, it helps to have a diploma, college diploma. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it does.
I don't know if they
In
think
every
that you're.
country.
I don't know if they think that you're more serious or what, but it
Yeah.
helps. It does help. And the other thing that I heard, but I don't know this from first hand, is that some companies might even check that you have a minimum amount of money on your bank account.
Yeah,
But
I was looking at the requirements to move to Canada, and it's a skill point system. You have to. They look at language. They look at years of experience. They look at your education and your money. You have to have like a specific amount. I think it's like 10,000 before you move there. But you have to be able to complete like 60 points out of what it's like a questionnaire. If
hmm,
you speak like their languages very well, you get like 8 points if you speak excellent, for example. And if you have like more than 2 years of experience, you get another 10 points. That's how it goes. And you have to be able to hit the 60 out of, I don't know, 80 or 100.
Is it a similar test for America?
No, that's what I'm saying.
No, it's not.
Oh, I
Because
see.
America is one of the hardest countries.
America is terrible. Like I was looking at it a lot, and
Yeah, both me and Markella have looked into getting into the U.S. and what ways exist, and it's basically like you can get married to get in.
oh yeah, that's
If you're under 20, if you're under 20 years old, and you have family in America, you can get in.
Indefinitely, or is it just for a period of time?
No, that's to get a green card.
Okay.
So if you get married, you can get a green card. If you're under 20 and you have family in the States, you can get a green card. And if you're rich and famous, you can get a green card. And that goes under the extraordinary alien visa, which is
And can
basically
I?
says you got to win contests, you got to win international contests, you got to have a lot of money, or you're going to have a job offer that will give you a lot of money. And you just, you got to be a big name in whatever industry you work in, and that's the only way to get the extraordinary alien visa. The only other way that I've found is if a company like is willing to sponsor you.
Yeah,
And that would
I was
probably fall
actually.
under the extraordinary alien visa, right?
At that point, like if the company's sponsoring you, are they essentially saying that they're going to be paying you a lot of money to be able to work there, or is
No,
it a separate?
that's a separate visa. Basically, for the work visa that you get, the company has to petition and say that we cannot find this talent inside America. Like we could not find someone of this particular skill set in America, so we have to bring him in from another country or her. And like depending on how big the company is, you have certain leeways. So if you're a small company, you get put in like this wait line, and it takes forever to go through this process. It might take 2 years before you can even get, start working there. Whereas if you're a really big, huge company, say Blizzard, they could probably get you in half a year because they're a big company. They have a lot more leeway and better lawyers and whatnot.
For example, I was when I started working with S2, they had an opening for an environmental position that I was interested in, and I spoke with them about it, and they told me that even if they want, they would give me an interview, but even if if I got it, it would take them a year for them to be able to get me into the country with paperwork and stuff. So even I was working for the company and they couldn't get me in.
So even if you're given the opportunity, it seems, to potentially work on a work visa in the States, there could be a timeline that you're going to have to wait, and that's something where you're going to have to continue to be freelancing, I would imagine, to earn an income until you can actually make that move.
Yep.
And also,
And I was
don't want to put, like most companies do not want to invest that much into one person unless you're like a really
exactly,
good person.
yeah.
So you can't just be anyone because they want to know that you're the shit, you're the big bad guy of the art community. Otherwise, why would they invest all that money and time into hiring you,
Yeah.
especially nowadays?
When they could just hire an American.
Yeah, and the other thing is that having the language thing as well, there are lots of risks. What if these people is not enough, at speaking the language and, cause any trouble?
Well, I think that's
So-
the least to worry
No,
about.
it's just I'm just adding things that it's just risk after risk. So you really need to be valuable for that company
Yeah.
to compete against the local.
And I also saw that they have the system that they get like 68,000 petitions every year, I think. I don't know if this is the number that gets approved, but it's something like this. They have a limited amount of people that they can get into the country. So I think companies start applying every April, and the cap closes at some point, and they can't get anything else, any more. So yeah, that's how it works. I think they also do it by luck. They pick out the petitions.
That's just speculation, though. We don't really know. It's
It says it.
and it's very money centered.
They announce it. They announce stuff about petitions. I was looking at that.
So knowing all this stuff, from here on out, where do you guys plan on going? I mean, are you actively pursuing a work visa elsewhere, or are you becoming more? Is the idea of freelancing and being a contractor in your own countries, is that more attractive at the moment? I mean, where do you guys plan on going?
In my case, I already told you, like my main goal at the moment is Japan, and after that, in January, if I didn't get any job, we'll talk again. But right now, priority number one is that.
Okay.
It would be really interesting to follow up with you on that, actually. Maybe we can add a bit to the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Personally, I still want to get into the U.S. or Canada, actually. Vancouver has a lot of gaming studios, and I heard a lot of good things about Vancouver. But, again, it's very difficult, so it's really about, you have to develop skill and reputation to where the company is like, we want that guy. You can't just be anyone. Or, you got to either have the connections or you just got to be big enough on the internet to have enough presence that people want to hire you. But like Markella said, it seems like it's easier to get into Canada with that point system, so maybe that's something. Oh, we forgot to mention one thing. Having a bachelor's, we briefly touched on this, but having a bachelor's definitely increases your chances of getting into both Canada and the U.S.
And even a master's, even if you have a master's, is even more.
Yeah, so the more education you have, the easier it is.
The thing that I find,
Whatever.
I don't know if funny or retarded, I don't know how to call it, that sometimes it's just having it. It doesn't matter if it's related or not to your job. It's just
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a stat point. That's all it
It
is.
could be anything.
Yeah. You can have a
master's in science.
Yeah, exactly.
They will attribute that as a stat point and be like, okay, he has a master, he gets 20 points. And
Yeah.
completely unrelated, but it does help. So that's just what I'm saying. Okay,
Wow.
what else?
I think that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, unless there's anything else you want to add, I think those were all the topics that we wanted to cover.
Speaking
Well-
of marriages,
Yeah,
can I make
Jack,
can I make my announcement?
when are you and Markella making that official? I know you guys were.
No. I was just gonna say publicly that if you're a good American boy,
Oh, we have to end the podcast. Let's.
This is
Hey.
not dating.
I'm
podcast.
joking.
we are getting into advertising now.
If anybody's willing to give me a green card, I'm joking.
You have to be able to pronounce her last name in order.
Well,
for me to
I can
Shit out
paint
of luck.
I can paint a card with green color, but I don't know if that works for you.
That's funny.
But I only need people on the West Coast. I don't want to move east.
Wow, now you're being racist.
Uh,
Now you're being racist.
Coastist.
No, I just wanted to quickly add that in this whole conversation, we have been mostly kind of, I don't know if to call it pessimistic or kind of showing everything how bad it is, but yeah, I want to just quickly add at the end the balance that, there are a lot of successful people from Europe. So don't feel depressed after listening to this. Like there are a
Well,
lot
'cause
of
it's just
people.
different hurdles. Like if you're from America, you have your own hurdles. If you're from Europe, you have a different set of hurdles. We all have a different struggle that we have to go through. So yeah,
Yeah,
there are
exactly.
definitely a lot of successful people from Europe. That's not what we're trying to say here. We're just bringing up the differences here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that struggle is kind of the pinnacle to this whole in the trenches idea. Just being able to talk about and discuss openly some of the challenges that everyone is going to have to face going into this career, whether you're in Germany, whether you're in Greece, whether you're in Spain, whether you're in Sweden or the States. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that everyone's going to have to go through in order to be successful at what they want to do. So I want to shed some light on that, and hopefully this was informational for.
Yeah, I'd say that the time that you would spend thinking that it's easier for this person, spend that time drawing.
Just draw all
Okay.
the time.
Just draw all the
Yeah, basically.
Disregard everything.
Yeah.
Draw.
That's the conclusion of our, draw all the time. Like never take a shower, never eat, just draw.
except when you might get an interview. Then it's not
Then
You should probably shower if you got that interview.
right on. Well, sadly Grant couldn't make it. Sorry we didn't have time for you, Grant. Maybe next episode we'll get you in.
He was around. He was around. It should be known that he tried. He made an effort.
Yeah.
Didn't try hard enough.
He got.
If you listen to this conversation again and halfway you can hear some chipmunk sounds, it was his attempts.
That was-
That was grand.
That was Grant. The chipmunk sounds were Grant.
That's his natural voice too. It's so hard for him. I mean, that's gonna be another episode about getting into the industry with chipmunk voice. Communicating with clients with the chipmunk voice.
Oh, that was awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. This has been
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
absolutely good to catch up, and I guess we'll see everyone in the next episode.
Yep.
Yep.
Bye.
All right. Take care, guys.